research-based paper presentations on educational serious games, on their design and implications. Before we start, I would like to quickly introduce myself. My name is Hacer Tercanlı. I'm a research associate, PhD candidate also at Science to Business Marketing Research Center at Fachhochschule Münster in Germany, and I am a representative of one of the partner organizations in the Unlock project. And we will have 4 presentations in this session. Just to remind everyone, although I expect that everyone is informed about this, all our presenters, we will have 15 minutes presentations strictly and 5 minutes for the questions. That we can be in time because we will have in total 1 hour and 25 minutes in this session. I'm very, very excited to be here. It's a really interesting session that's waiting us because especially in higher education context, educational escape rooms is a rather recent research and practice. Higher education educators are especially dealing lots of challenges, especially regarding design, on to what extent the games that they are developing are pedagogically oriented versus game oriented, the difficulty levels, and there are lots of questions that needs to be answered to be able to create an immersive and at the same time educational escape room. So I'm expecting that in this session we will find answers to some of these questions and that we will have some inspiring discussions afterwards. So before taking too long, I would like to invite our first presenter. I don't know if both of our presenters are here, Paula Carole and Gabriel da Silva Bruno.
I'm here.
Okay, Paula is here. Paula, welcome. I think you brought greetings from Gabriel to us.
No. He's my student that built up the platform, but
Yes.
he's not here, unfortunately.
Okay, all right. But before your presentation, I would like to introduce you to our community here. So Paula has a PhD in education from the University of Sao Paulo. She has been working with educational technology since 1993. She's an adjunct professor at UniFesp. She finished her postdoctoral internship at the Open University of Portugal in Leeds in 2022. So with this quick introduction, I would like to give the floor to you, Paula, and yeah, we are with you.
Can you share my screen?
Yes, I think, Catherine, you can make it possible.
Yes, I can.
Yes. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see.
Thank you. This is my theme about this is not escape room, because Gabriel and me developed a platform, a virtual platform to build escape rooms. And the problem is many of games that people build in this platform is not escape room. And I thought about this. About what is escape room, it's not escape room, okay? And it's the problem about the controversies and confusions that people do about the escape rooms. The kind of a game about that called escape room, okay? Our context, since 2017, I have developed escape rooms, physical, digital, and hybrids. And I teach and research activity in the undergraduate educational design courses. We build escape rooms as an intervention proposal in museums, exhibitions, events, and in classrooms too. I show some escape rooms to understand our context. The first escape room that we built called Escape Classroom is a joke to problematize why students think about to escape from the classroom, and to this escape room. The intent of this escape room, it problematized the teacher-student relationship, and this is the narrative that they find. They understand what happened with the teachers and understand his problem, and talk about and propose things, and then was interesting because they were stuck in the classroom, and they had to discover things to understand the teacher, and find a way to escape from the classroom. Okay. After this, we did escape in a museum called Catavento. It was a historic start of palace. Was a palace. Building now is a science museum, but this palace was had several uses in history, and they have a complex history. And we did a escape room about the history of the building. These students go to the underground, the museum, and they had to discover the history, to disarm a bomb, and there's a bomb, and the time to disarm the bomb, to preserve the escape room. This escape room was interested because there are they understand the importance for the historical building, the patrimony. Okay. After this, we did a psychoescape in the Museum of Image and Sound in São Paulo, about the Bates Motel, in a Hitchcock film. The people are stuck in the room, Bates Motel, and listen the Norman to come. 5 minutes to escape. so impressive. After this, we did escape to problematize teachers and technicians for university, to integration activities. Okay. And to solve the difference from this kind of people. Okay. The integration. After this, we developed the open system escapes. It's a web web program to integrate some scenarios with passwords and timer and signs to build escapes, to teachers build escape rooms. Okay, this is open. Everyone can do your escape room. Okay, and it's a form. People put the name of the game, the time, how much passwords, put the scenarios with a link, and the program will join, and we did many digital escape rooms about this. this form: the scenario, the time, and the number of passwords, and the hints. Okay, if people wrong the password, there are hints. Okay, and you develop this as a form and put the scenarios. Okay, then we become to do digital escape rooms, many scenarios, and we try to develop reflexive escape rooms for events. For example, this escape room for I did about in Universidade Aberta in Portugal to research, think about your investigations about, and the escape room is people will discover and tell about your research, and the platform research, our platform research, there are a responsive interface for desktop and mobile. Não tem indifference between uppercase and lowercase, correction links of YouTube, previewing escape finish, send the confirm of email, collect the player names, passwords in time, friend URL for sharing, message set before start the game, message for definition in case the time's run out, choose the tags and the end of the escape, number of passwords between 1 and 10, and hint system. Okay, but our main educational design problem is reactivity. Unfortunately, the teachers that use our platform transform the escape room experience as a quiz. Okay, it's unfortunate. It's a problem. Okay, because the escape room dynamics, mechanics, and static, escape. The escape room. What is escape room? You need to escape somewhere and have a reason in a coherent challenge. You have an urgency, pressure of the time, and emergence, things, relations, and it's important for the escape room. The pressure for the time, the emergence, and the coherent challenges. Okay, but from data use of our platform, we still researching of this. Okay, but between 2019 and February, the first version for the platform, new escapes were created, and 408 analyzed. And the new version, we have 425 analyzed, and we exclude tests and repetitions, and because of people testing and not continuing. Okay, and we still researching about the tens, the number of versions, the complexity, instruction complexity, the complexity of the password, the immersion, the kind of the scenario people puts, challenge, complexity of the challenge, and types of the feedback. The main problem, it's not escape room. Why not? There is no scenario that we escape more than put the password as an answer for the quiz, as a quiz, okay? Activities are reactive, not exploratory and creative, okay? That's the controversies and inconsistencies. The 25% are really escape room. Okay, that 75% not escape room. Okay, with escape problem. Less than 10% intended social issues. Okay, most of 87%, the passwords are objective answer as a code, mediate code, little exploration and context and complex challenges. Okay, the coherence of competence, basic levels for the coding of phenomenon, rare cases for problem solving. One of another argumentative and proposition skills and reflective experience and self-knowledge, but a little. And exploration practice and the exploration practice in imaginary potential, okay? Okay, redesign the platform and training. We have to think about the interventions for the...
Veja aqui algumas imagens.
Sorry. For the platform, we think about new supports framework, visual frameworks to help people to understand the concept of escape rooms and create the educational challenges. Okay, in the platform with examples to exploratory, argumentative, and creative scenarios, narratives, and challenge. We need to show repertory inspiration because people need to repertory for escape room. Okay, a community of practice with sharing good practice, exchange experience. New trainings, hands-on, to create scenarios, create narrative, create challenge, and more intervention proposals to women's participatory pedagogy and social change. Now we do this kind of intervention.
Paula, last 1 minute. I'm sorry.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Our design to redesign the platform, but now we search funding for this. Okay, because it's actually no funding to redesign the platform, but the scenarios the training we done. Okay, that's it. Thank you. In this site is the there are a platform. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Paula, thank you very much first of all for your presentation, but can you also copy and paste this website into our chat? Yeah, maybe our participants would like to have access to it. Thank you again for this very interesting presentation, and I have a question, actually follow-up question, but I first would like to open the floor to questions from our participants. Are there any questions, any comments for Paula? You can raise your hands or you can just start. I see Eva raising hand.
Yes, hello, Paula. I was very curious to learn about your project. And I have a basic question just to precise your idea. So could you please just make some final, so to say, conclusions about why do you think that they actually need this escape is it because those school curricula are somehow incomplete? Or you think that there's a generation gap, or what's the reason you need actually to escape?
No, okay. I think the problem with teachers, I think not poor teachers, no, but to build an escape room, we think about create a world, create a scenario, create a deductive process, investigative process, and teachers are used to expose things, to demonstrate things. It's difficult to build the escape room. It's change the kind of create that activity. I think this is the problem because escape room we have to build not the challenges. We have to create challenge to children, to students to discover things and create scenarios to explore, not reactive answer and question and answer. It's difficult to teacher to understand this kind of the different form to create a game. I don't know if you understand me. I answer your question, no.
So do you mean that it's actually an alternative to make some other views on the topic, to open up some other possibilities, to explain the topic? Or
I can't understand. I couldn't understand. Can you repeat, please?
Is it like an alternative to explain the subject?
Yes. It's an alternative. Okay. When teachers ask me, Paula, how can begin to create escape room or create a gamification things? I said, how to transform the explanation in discovery. How to create challenge to students discover things, not to show things. Okay, how to create a scenarios that they can explore, like Seymour Papert called this the micro worlds, a kind of micro world, not and that create the scenarios that students can explore and think about and create high hypotheses. And I think it's the challenge. Okay.
All right. I think, yeah, we will have to wrap up this presentation. And Paula, thank you very much. And if you have further questions, please post them in the chat, which I will also do. Maybe we'll have time at the very end. We could raise more questions for Paula. But for this time, let's move on to our next presentation, Designing Educational Games with the Didactics-Driven Development Methodology by Anders Bover. Is Anders with us right now?
Thank you.
Hi, Anders.
Hi there.
It's good to have you here. Before I leave the floor to you, I would like to give a quick introduction about you to our community. So Anders is a senior researcher and lecturer at the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences at the Faculty of Digital Media and Creative Industries. He's also active as a project coordinator and researcher for the Smart Education Lab within the Faculty of Education. So with this quick introduction, I leave the floor to you, Anders, and yeah, we are looking forward to hearing your insights.
Thank you. Let me try to share my screen. Can you remind me of how much time I have?
I will maybe 2 minutes before or 5 minutes before. How would
Let's
you
have
like?
5 and 2.
Okay, all right, I will.
So am I aiming for 15 minutes plus
Yes.
5 questions or something?
Yes, 15 minutes plus 5 questions.
Okay, great. Okay. This talk is about a continuation of the Didactics-Driven Development Project, which was a Dutch Games Association Field Lab project running from 2019 to 21, with a game studio called Pillar Games and the HVA, or Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences, where I work. And I'm going to tell a bit about how the development methodology has arisen and developed throughout the time, and how it has informed the design of a couple of games, educational games. So, and this is, I'll be mentioning some work done by students, Marcus Bikker-Kaarten, Dennis Boon, and Mark Gomersbach, which are all HBO ICT students at our hogeschool. So, this is what I will go through: the problem, research question, and desired solutions. Then I'll talk you through what the methodology actually entails. I'll mention some related work. And then I'll go into the 4 case studies. We'll see how I'm go quickly through them.
Anders,
then-
I'm sorry, do you have a presentation? Because we cannot see it.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
I thought you were already seeing the screen. So this was the title, continuation of the project. The contents I just mentioned. So here we are, the problem. In the context of developing educational games, or maybe also other applied games, we got the impression that didactic goals and other concerns are often considered important at the beginning of a project, and also towards the end of the project when a game is being evaluated, but they're often a bit neglected throughout the processes in between, the development and design processes. And that's what this project wants to address, to prevent the mismatch between didactic goals and the software that has arisen. Because that will lead to an inefficient allocation of resources and missed opportunities to redirect the software project before it goes the wrong direction. So our research question was, how can we incorporate didactic goals and other didactic concerns into the design and development of educational games throughout the development process? And we use the ideas under the name Didactics-Driven Development. And what do the other concerns entail? Things like didactic goals, intended audiences, teaching scenarios, learning opportunities, evaluation measures on how to measure what has been learned. These opportunities can be realized, but they can also be missed. And also design decisions in the game and the evaluation measures in the game. We want to keep track of those and in relation to the didactic concerns. So what do we want? We want to develop this methodology so that it can inform the design and development of our games. And we also want to build tools on top of that actually help doing that computationally. And we believe that it will lead to more insight in the production process, and also more efficient process, and because of that, hopefully also better educational games in the end. This is a bit of detail, but I think it's summarized a bit in the figure that I already showed. So this is a list of the things that we would like to represent ideally in the methodology. But we've tried to not only list them, but also organize them. And this is a first attempt at that. And I'll try to briefly talk you through it a little bit. The idea is that you, to develop a game, which we have in the middle, you need an educational game. You need didactic goals and instructional principles to inform your design decisions. And we would like to have a model of the game design before starting the coding. And I should say the white ovals are things that a human designer does, and the orangey ones are things that a computer could potentially help with. And the blue boxes are data or systems. So the idea is that if you have a game design model, maybe you have already existing games or game designs that you can use to compare against your intended design. And then maybe you reuse part of that so that you can spend less time coding. And when you play the game, you select a didactic goal and you match that with the game scenario, which involves actual game situations and actual gameplay by a player. And when you playtest that, you get feedback from players, and also what they do, you register that in the play traces. And both of those you can analyze and reflect upon to see if you have attained your goals or not. And maybe you get explicit feedback from test players, but maybe they did something. You recognize opportunities for learning that have been missed. And all these things lead to insights on the top right, that will inform a redesign of your game. So this is work that has been inspired by a number of things, like test-driven development, where you first develop the test and then develop the software that can comply to the test. Requirements analysis for educational games, methods for serious game development, testing methods for serious games, but also domain-specific languages, like visual languages to represent software, like Van Rosen's work. And Van Rosen's work on live game design is also relevant, that I worked with him together, where live game design is about visual programming languages that can provide feedback and feed forward, given a runnable model of your game. And the ultimate goal of that is to be able to live prototype a game, that you can, with the ease of a paper prototype, you can also use digital prototypes that automatically mirrors, where the software mirrors your model of the game, and that can provide feedback, for example, by showing you mistakes in your design, like, hey, you've developed 10 game situations, but 2 of those are unattainable because they can never be reached, or something like that. Okay, then I'll go into the case studies, which have a bit to do with entrepreneurial learning as well. The first game that we looked at was Boombust Inc. with game studio Pillar Games, where you play an employee at a bank and you interact with your boss, which you see here. And you certainly don't want to disappoint him, because then he gets grumpy and speaks to you threatens you to fire you if you don't achieve your targets. But behind this game were actually 5 didactic goals. So the idea that there is a difference between money and credit, how a credit bubble may arise, how banks can overcome periods of stress, things like that.
Anders, last 5 minutes.
Okay. And what we found when they tested it during the development process is that for some of the didactic goals, they had a nice learning effect. But for some others, like this one, maybe one of you want to guess. Money in my bank account. Is that my property, my claim on the bank, or safe in the bank's vault? Any guesses? Maybe in the chat?
Is it B?
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 Yeah, that's actually correct. But it turns out that many of the test people didn't realize that. Most of them voted for my property before playing the game and property of the bank after playing the game. And both of those are wrong answers. And the correct one was not chosen very often. So that was an indication that something was wrong with the design and they had to redesign. Then we considered this methodology and we filled in the bits specific for this game. And that led to insights on how to redesign the game. In the interest of time, I only want to mention this briefly. We had a student work on a VR game on decision making, and where you are in a VR room. And here there were didactic opportunities both during gameplay, but also after the gameplay. And they had to reflect on why their decision making was suboptimal. And one thing that we made explicit here was the idea of a teaching scenario. With a scenario editor that you can see at the left bottom, where in most cases, well, there's a series of dilemmas that you go through during the game. And if you make the wrong decisions as a group, as a team, then a disaster will happen. Like one of them is leading to a scenario where robots take over the military control. Okay, we have another student project which looked at collaboration, cooperation, and competition. And here we had the idea of a game master that can look at the player's behavior and influence aspects of the game while it is running to stimulate either collaboration, for example, by putting large rocks that can only be moved when people work together, or cooperation by offering one player with certain resources and another player with other resources, and that they have to exchange by trade, or competition by putting weapons in the game so that they can harm each other or steal each other's resources. And there we had also didactic opportunities that could occur during gameplay, but also after the game. And the final one, we are now implementing the whole methodology, or at least part of it. This is a slight subset of the methodology, but for a tutorial on the Go game. So here you can play the game of Go. Maybe you know how to capture this group of stones, but maybe not. If you're black, you have to, can you see my mouse? You have to play here, and then you get a ladder going to the board, and in the end, you can capture all the white stones. And running behind the background, the system records what is the actual select the didactic goal, which scenario has been picked, the learning opportunities that arise during the gameplay. It records a play trace, it analyzes that, it looks at the evaluation measures of the intended outcomes, estimates the difficulty, and in the end that leads to insights like, for example, you have 3 exercises, but the third one seems easiest based on the evidence. So maybe you should reorder them. And so are pretty close to having implemented this data flow from didactic goal, games, scenarios, evaluation measures, in the end, back to suggestions for the game designer. So that brings me to my last few slides. I'm interested in your feedback. Do you recognize this problem that I posed at the beginning, where there is often a mismatch between the design intentions, didactic concerns, and the outcomes in the actual game at the end? That there's a lack of attention to the didactic concerns in the middle phases of the project. And if you have knowledge of other methods which try to do similar things besides the ones I mentioned, then I'm interested. And in the first 3 case studies, the methodology was more used as a conceptual aid, but in the last one, it actually is being implemented as a tool. Do you think it's more useful as a conceptual aid or as a computer tool? So that's my questions to you.
Yes, I think we are now already moving into the questions that Anders, you already brought up some inspirational directions for us. So I already consider that now we can get engaged with your presentation. But thank you very much for your very interesting presentation, and looking deeper into the online education escape rooms and their design and programming. I would like to open space to see what kind of questions we have among our participants. Maybe you can raise your hand or just start by asking a question. Okay, please.
Sorry, could I ask?
Please go ahead, Diona.
One sort of clarifying question. Do you think that didactic goal is the same as learning goal?
Good question. Not necessarily.
Okay. So how would you define didactic goal?
I see didactic as slightly more encompassing, and that it may, for example, also entail persuasive goals, like in the game with the banking employee. That has also a persuasive goal of showing that the current banking system is not really fair, and that there may be better economic models to be pursued.
Yeah. But I like I certainly recognize this mismatch. So I like this model that you had built. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very interesting.
I see also a question
in the chat.
Richard in the chat. Does the system record the individual gameplay in multiplayer games? Good question. In the 2 multiplayer games that I showed, we did not implement the methodology yet, only really isolated parts of it. And the last example where we did implement it, it's only a 1-player tutorial. So, but we want to scale up certainly to, in one of the multiplayer games, we do record the individual moves so that, and we stimulate the teacher to reflect on that play trace. But
Thank you.
the computer doesn't do anything other than print it out in that one.
And if I may quickly reply, thank you, Anders. The reason I asked that question because I was wondering if the method could enable to use games for personalized learning. So in the multiplayer game, you have different students making different choices. And then through the methods, you then gain the analytics to help develop the game and make decisions.
Yeah. The on the one hand, this model is intended mostly for gathering data from multiple players and then based on that revise the design of your game. But as I also mentioned, the live game design approach is very much about adapting a game while it is running based on the actual gameplay that is happening at that time. So yeah, future work will certainly go in that direction.
Thank you, Anders, and thank you for your questions, Jonna and Richard. I will have to step in here to wrap up this interesting conversation, and I would like to invite you to the chats for maybe follow-up questions and comments. Thank you very much, Anders, again, for your contribution. And I would like to now focus on the next presentation by Jonna Järväläinen. I hope I pronounce it correctly. On her presentation, selecting a suitable educational escape room, a facilitating set of propositions. And before I give the floor to Jonna, I would like to quickly also introduce our presenter. Jonna is a university lecturer at the University of Turku, Finland. Her research interests lie in business continuity and information security management, as well as in game-based learning and educational escape rooms, which she has designed for several courses in both the digital and physical formats. We are looking forward to your presentation, Jonna, and floor is yours.
Thank you. So I hope you can see my slides. I hope I can see my notes also. Just a moment to adjust. So yeah, okay. Just one moment, I want to see my notes. But I'm really excited to be on my first escape room conference. So I'm really looking forward to our discussions. So I'm presenting a paper called Selecting a Suitable Educational Escape Room, a facilitating set of propositions. And yeah, I've been doing these educational escape rooms for a couple of years now, and some of my colleagues have approached me and have asked me that they want to do an educational escape room on their own course. So how could they start? And well, I had a number of questions for them. So would they want to do it in a physical format or a digital format and so on? And I thought that maybe I could develop some set of propositions and facilitate selecting a suitable educational escape room sort of format or type for others, not only just for my colleagues. So first of all, I looked into a little bit educational escape room literature, and for instance, Veldkamp et al. They start with this learning goal, and they defined or explained in their literature review that one of the or two of the most common learning goals they mention in the article are some kind of assessment or deepening of student learning, or then the second one was like improving team communication skills and team building, which is sort of a general skill. So I was thinking that if we think about these different learning goals, and now I'm talking about learning goals according to Veldkamp et al., we have to think whether the student teams can do an educational escape room or EER at the same time or one after another. And do we need to assess individual student knowledge? So for instance, if we're doing a team building educational escape room or some simple assessment, that could be done simultaneously so that every team would do it at the same time. But if we need to assess, for instance, individual student learning, maybe this kind of consecutive EER is better, or then we can use also video monitoring. Is there another thing that we have to consider in these learning goals, that do we need to include some content objectives or knowledge objectives to the game? So maybe in a team building EER, it's not really necessary to include something content-wise from the course, but maybe they can have some fun. But if we are doing deepening of student learning or assessing the student learning, then we need to have also some real content there. And of course, the learning goal also affects the placement in the course schedule. So if you are doing team building, probably it's a good idea to have the EER in the beginning of the course, but if we are deepening their knowledge or assessing their knowledge, probably the EER, the EER should be later on the course. So the first proposition that I developed is that the learning goal of the educational escape room affects the EER format. Now I'm meaning that the student teams are playing simultaneously or consecutively, the need for monitoring, and the course schedule. So that is the first proposition.
Jonna, excuse me, if you are changing the slide, we are not able to see them. We are still on the cover page, just in case.
Let me try to share it again. Thank you for pointing this out. There, and share screen, this one. Okay. Let's see, can you see now my slides? Yeah, okay. And my notes are gone again. So yes. So let's continue. So for instance, Ukel et al., they have mentioned that a typical student team in an EER is 3 to 6 students. But if the educational escape room is intended for a 20-person group, it's quite different than if we have a 120 students on the course. So it really affects the design. How many students do we have on the course? So I thought that if we have some kind of very large course, then it might be easier to have simultaneous EERs where you can use video monitoring or some kind of, that the students put some kind of code to a learning management system, and you can monitor their progress in that way. And that would mean that if they do it in a large course simultaneously, there's less time for this kind of total playing, less total playing time. On a smaller course, maybe you can do a consecutive EER, and the teacher can be monitoring that all the time. And that would mean, of course, that it needs more time for playing from teacher's own schedule. And then, well, I also think that it's possible to do a physical educational escape room on a large course simultaneously and a digital one in a smaller course, but I would perhaps try with this. You can, of course, use physical tools in consecutive EERs, but digital tools you can reuse in both physical and digital escape rooms. So the second proposition that I have is that the number of students on the course using educational escape room affects the ER format, the need for monitoring, and the required resources. Then the Unlock, one of the Unlock project's publications and also Veltcup et al., they have considered the play and building time of an EER. It seems that the typical EER is 60 minutes, and one can do quite the complex EER in that time, both digitally and physically. Although if we have this kind of longer 60-minute ER, I would perhaps aim for a more complex one in a physical setting and in a consecutive format, because it seems that when the students are in the same room, it is more engaging and fun. I think if we would be in the same room now, it might be even more engaging and fun. But if the ER is very short, less than 30 minutes, for instance, maybe a more simple one, which is played simultaneously and possibly in a digital format would be easier to accomplish. There are really good digital ER templates, for instance, in Breakout Edu and Genially, and Paula also showed us one platform there. And then the building time is also another. So if you do a more complex game, then you have to think about that you need more building time and perhaps also resources. So this ends up with two different propositions. So the available development time for ER creation affects the design of an educational escape room, whether it's a simple or complex one, and the required resources. And the available playing time for an educational escape room affects the ER format and the required resources.
Jonna, last 5 minutes.
Yes. So the final sort of element which I consider as an information system scientist is this delivery media, whether you're doing a physical or a digital educational escape room. So a physical might be a little bit more engaging. At least last week, my students all were laughing when they saw the handcuffs in the physical room, but with a really good storyline, you can do a really pretty good digital ER too. So the final proposition is that the delivery media affects the design of the ER. And if we think about now that how should we then select the suitable educational escape room? I'm sorry about these numbers here, but I would perhaps start with this one if I would be advising somebody. Do you want to do an ER for a small course or a large course? So everything is possible for a small course, but if you have a large course, it might need a lot of, there is limited playtime. You can't have a couple of weeks out of your course schedule just for ERs, for instance. Then I would also think about whether you have a lot of time for developing the ER or just a short one. So with a lot of time, you might aim for a more complex design, but if you don't have so much time, there are templates that you can find online, both for digital and physical one. And then I would think about whether I'm doing it simultaneously with teams playing at the same time or consecutively, teams playing after one after another. And that these three sort of questions would perhaps already give an answer whether you should do a digital or physical one, or can you do an exam, or would you prefer team building ER? And finally, there are some example ERs that I can show you that, for instance, if you're doing a team building exercise, ER exercise, maybe this kind of simultaneous one would be more appropriate. It's doable even in a large course. I would aim for a short one, but there is no need for individual monitoring, so you can do it both in a digital or physical form. And if you're doing some kind of exam, you can do it both digitally and physically. Some kind of monitoring is really needed, and sense of urgency. You can do it, this kind of simultaneous exam for a large course also, and you can find or use some templates or available tools to do this quite easily. And consecutive exam I would do for a smaller course, and then you can do it, do a more complex ER, but it of course takes more time to be developed. So that concludes my presentation. This is just an opening for a discussion, so I hope to hear your comments and questions. So thank you.
Thank you, Jonna, for this really interesting presentation. I'm curious about the questions that will be coming up. Yes, floor is yours, dear participants. Any questions for Jonna and about her propositions? If not, Anders?
Yeah, I have one, because did I understand correctly that you say that if you have a longer course, then you may have to reduce the playing time?
I was thinking that if you have a larger course, so with many students, then maybe it's not really easy to have this kind of consecutive ERs one after another. So otherwise, for instance, with 100 students, it would mean like 20 hours of consecutive ERs, and that might not be possible for many of us nowadays. Of course, if you have time, it's really great, but at least I don't have that.
Okay, because if you have a course that is placed in a longer amount of time, then maybe you can do more.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But do you see the value of that, of repeated play over the course of a longer course?
Do you mean that the same game would be repeated?
Yeah, would you recommend playing ER for an hour, or maybe 6 times 10 minutes? Interspersed.
Well, one of my sort of which I want at some point to do is to do a sort of whole course ER, so that we would each week pass one puzzle, and in the end we would have some kind of end result. So that would be really nice, and then I think this kind of 10 minutes slots would be more suitable. But well, of course, in different countries, these courses are in different formats. For instance, in Finland, like 2 or 4 hours per week for one course is quite normal, and 6 weeks course or 12 weeks course are sort of the normal format. So if we have 12 weeks, I would think that 1 hour ER is okay. But if we have only 6 weeks and 2 hours per week, maybe I would aim for a smaller one. But really good point, that how long is a course? That could be one additional question, certainly. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jonna. Thank you, Anders. I see there's one more question, but I'm not sure if you can take it, Richard, because I want to give enough time to our final presentation that they will have just 20 minutes, 50 minutes presentation plus 5-minute question. But I would like you to please pose your question in the chat to Yona, because I would love this conversation to continue. And thank you, Yona, again for your presentation. And now I would like us to move to our final presentation with Eva. Is it the right pronunciation of your name? First,
Yes.
I want to make sure. Is it Eva? Not Eva, but Eva.
It's okay, Eva, yes.
Okay, all right. And before I give the floor to you, I would like to provide a short bio about you to our participants. So Eva has been a researcher at Vidzeme University of Applied Sciences, Latvia, since 2018. And she currently leads a course in modern aesthetics at the Latvian Academy of Music. Eva holds a PhD in contemporary musicology and has studied at the Paris Nanterre University in France. Very interesting background. So it's always interesting that as game designers, education escape room providers, that we all come from different fields. So yeah, we are curious to hear about your presentation, the in-game project refinements to the theory of immersive aesthetics and innovation in serious art gaming. Floor is yours, Eva.
Thank you. I will try to share my screen now. And I will speak for a couple of minutes, and then I will give the floor to my colleague, Alvis, who is, I hope, present.
I'm here.
Alvis is a young artist, working also as a teacher and researcher at the university. And we have started to work on a research project called ImGame, which is short from immersion game. ImGame focused on immersion as phenomenon in the contemporary virtual art. And this is our project name. I don't know if I could somehow minimize this. Okay, doesn't matter. So the project is about serious gaming and about teaching not only contemporary art, but basically the ideas of cultural intelligence, let's say, the ideas that are rooted in our intertextual heritage from previous era, from modernism, for instance, also from Enlightenment, taking into account the ideas of Immanuel Kant, for instance, that are very influential still nowadays, also regarding immersive aesthetics, because Kant, you know, he has this notion of sublime, where you have a certain feeling of wonder, feeling of excitement, and also a certain inability that makes you somehow unable to rationalize this experience. So you're not fully rational during this sublime experience. And that is exactly what we have in immersive experience, that we are focused and amazed, and also in a way we are unable for a second to make rational conclusions. And also we have a very important role of Greek mythology in immersive aesthetics. For instance, the Greek myth about Narcissus, is a very influential source that people may have heard, that students have maybe learned at school, but they don't understand this reference. Why is it important to learn about Narcissus today? And we want to make this link in educational educational gaming to previous eras, to show how is it related to our virtual experiences. As I told you before, the notion of sublime is connected conceptually to our experience of immersion, and also Narcissus is important because he stares, you might say, into his reflection, and he's also amazed and also sort of paralyzed for a moment because he's just so into it. And so the methodology of this art gaming that we're building is basically focused on this intertextual context of ideas from a history of culture. And also we want to include young artists who have immersive artworks to promote their work in the game. We already had, we made a game before, which is called Artspace. You could look at this link in the chat. Artspace was our first game with Academy of Art, where we tried to link also contemporary art with the intertextual context of culture, very broadly, and somehow as simple as possible, to introduce general public, really not only students who learn art, but to introduce general public to understand those relations between our aesthetics in the phone, in internet, all the audiovisual signs and images and sounds that we have to understand how they are connected to our history of culture, broadly speaking. And then technical issues, we have made it, Artspace was made in Unity, but then with Alvis, we decided that we will make the next game differently, and Alvis will try to explain you how is he going to do it, please.
Right, I'm going to share my screen. Yeah, can you? All right. Just a second. All right. So, do you see the screen?
Yes, we are able to see it, Alice.
All right. So, yeah, hello everyone. So, yeah, the technical issues. Yeah. So, as Eva mentioned, Artspace was built using Unity, and well, it's then a downloadable game. You need a Windows-based gaming computer to use it. And well, how much people do have gaming computers? Well, I think the number isn't big. And again, probably they have their own list of things what to do on a gaming computer often. And here are some screenshots from Artspace. I think, yeah, it's Artspace was made, with Eva and Christos Bitters previously. I think a really, really, really good and interesting, entertaining way to get to see and understand art directions. And so theme game, it's like a continuation. We'll have some same elements from Artspace, but it's going to be browser based. So maybe you heard, so the WebXR standard, it's it's a recent time, maybe like 2 or 3 years. It's evolving. It's kind of a little bit chaotic, but it's the way. It's a really good, great way how to make content and how to just send the link and everyone can see it, and across all multiple devices. So yeah, and the challenge developing in WebXR is it's hard, and it's again, one challenge is limited device performance because you have all these different slow, fast phones and computers, and you need to find the middle ground so it will work on all. That means no dense forests probably, or no like complex scenery. And another big challenge is there are helpful tools emerging, but they are still in the early phase and really for some specific cases. And well, the gains to like from the WebXR platform is the accessibility. Of course, accessibility in this meaning that everyone can access it from everywhere. If you have an internet, if you can put a web browser on a fridge, you can access it from a fridge too, with minor like corrections. But again, it's so everything is new. So there's a big, great possibility to create new tools and workflows. So we can make the tools that we need. We don't need to get used to some tools that somebody else made. Another gain, as I mentioned, is works across multiple devices and could be future-proof and metaverse-ready educational game in VR. So the experience previously, why the hype from my side for WebXR? Because there were some projects with which I saw the possibilities, what can be achieved through a web browser. One of them is during the COVID time, we made a virtual reality gallery, art gallery for the Art Academy of Latvia. And if you can scan the QR code and get inside and take a look. For example, I can, you can walk around. And again, you see maybe on the upper, lower, on the lower right side, a VR button. If you have a VR headset, you can put them on and you can press the VR button and you can walk yourself. They're using your body movements. And maybe another was like during COVID time, a lot of virtual exhibitions, and they mostly were like standardized rooms with paintings on walls and 360 spheres. But here we may choose the difficult route and photo scanned everything, modeled everything, approximately 100 student works. We photo scanned, and edited and placed in here. And we have like 10 rooms altogether. You just can walk around. And I was like a little bit amazed that everything like what we put there, it somehow like worked. It was there. And then it's also really great place, to archive works, to store works, and to display works kind of interactively and use more of a human-oriented UI, not has like this new possibilities. So okay, was the presentation. Now here it is. Here are some other rooms, screenshots of the rooms. As you see, we can make like anything we think. Well, most of the time. And I didn't mention, the rooms here, it's, as I noted that it's a scan of a real space. And if we want like more works, with more works there, we can modify the space freely because we have a 3D model of it. We can create this alternate reality. And another recent work is my like artwork for an exhibition. It was WebXR multiplayer experience called Peace on Web. and you can also scan the QR code right now if you want, and we can like meet up in together in one space, which is peace on earth, a peace on the web. And here every new user who enters is a rock or a here we see one. Hello. Oh, moves, right? And yeah, we can like more than 20 just come here and meet up and use the space as a virtual shared place.
Last 1 minute, Alvis.
Yep, that's just perfect timing. And and the technical goals using this platform is to create tools and workflows for better WebXR development, to help the community, to help ourselves, and then integrate WebXR content creation in Art Academy of Latvia study programs. When developing the VR exhibition, understood that a lot of helping hands would be great, and the possibilities offered for WebXR are fantastic, but there are too few people who can dive in and help out. So I think it also represents some kind of like a new era of shared content, shared spaces, and knowledge transfer. I think that's it.
Thank you very much, Eva and Alvis, for this really interesting and inspiring presentation. I especially like the exhibition that you showed, your own exhibition at the very end, and with the background tunes that you integrated. I first would like to give the floor to our participants for any questions. I see there are also some comments in the chat. We could also start with that. Richard has questions. Which WebEx platform did you use?
We are using A-Frame. It's a Mozilla, like a side project or a project, and it. If you know, WebXR, then you probably heard of Free.js, and A-Frame is another abstraction level on top. So I also here in courses give to students to make some content, and they're really like they can make 3D content in web really fast. I was really happy that such a thing exists.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and maybe I could quickly ask my own question. So what is the next step for you? Like, is it in the process that you are integrating serious games into these spaces, digital spaces that you are creating, or is it already there?
Based on the experience, knowledge, again, it's kind of be like a new thing that we never did. I also didn't find any game on the web so extensive. Probably there's a reason, but we're gonna try to find a solution so it's gonna work good on the web.
Yes,
and also I wanted to share experience. I was just visiting Austria, University of Applied Sciences in St. Pölten, which is a city near Vienna. And I was also speaking to the management about really modern curricula, the study programs, basically. And they also say that there's a gap, there's a tabula rasa, how they call it, underdeveloped area, really in this cultural ideas, cultural education during the last 20 years, speaking about 21st century. And really, I was amazed that in Austria, it's the same. They say that they teach, for instance, students to program, to code, and they're lacking. They lack creativeness because students have not learned about ideas, like for instance, cubism and futurism. And they don't know artifacts such as Black Square by Kazimir Malevich, so they don't have this creative discussion really about creating ideas. Not that they know the facts or years, but they would actually know the ideas, and they would have a discussion really on ideas generation. And that is why we want to create this platform for people to just gather ideas and also invent new ones. Yeah. So we want to create this, develop the field of serious gaming regarding really not art, history of art, but merge the fields of philosophy, musicology, and history of culture, and also history of art. So that people would, they would have some kind of inspiration.
Yes, I think I also see such a platform as a space for students from different fields come together and generate something together and complement each other, social sciences and maybe those who are coding and programming, right? These platforms. So it's really, really inspirational, and there's much work to be done, and we will be following up your work, Eva and Alvis. So with that final note, I don't know if you have further questions, please reach out to our speakers. For now, we will have to wrap up this session to prepare you for your following sessions in the program. I think you could move from here to your, of course, lunch break, but combined with an online escape room session that is starting at 1 p.m., which is right now. So yeah, I wish you a good time and lots of learning and inspirations in the remaining sessions, and I will hope to see you. Thank you very much for all your contributions and comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.